Guy, hour number 3 of Overdrive. Jim Tatti and Dave Feschuk from the Toronto Star, subbing for the regulars. Hazy B back in the studio or on the captain's chair Monday, and hopefully the house has been repaired.
Hey, I'm always worried about Hayes. Always worried.
He's busy. He's busy on the app.
For sure. The place must be. I hope the place is in better shape after all that.
Well, it should be. I mean, sorry, Brian. Anyway, let's do the Olympic recap. We're going to have Bob Weeks on talking about Olympic golf, which, and it's not a criticism, but the Olympic golf resembles the regular PGA Tour. So it resembles normal life as good as you can. Not that anything else in the Olympics does, because it's all different type of competition or stuff that you don't see all the time. But this is exactly as it should be.
Yeah, well, Xander Schauffele at the top of the leaderboard. Scottie Scheffler not too far off. But you're right. There's a lot of people saying they should do something different with the Olympic golf, right? Make it a team event, make it a mixed event. I don't know. It's tough to. You don't want to get too gimmicky.
Yeah, I don't know what else. I mean, the Live Tour has provided us with another look at golf, and a lot of people don't like it. So I don't know. You'd be giving away a gold medal for something that people would consider to be not legitimate golf competition. The way it is now, it is.
Yeah, you're right. No, but I mean, look at what they did with curling, for example, right? They still have, the men's and the women's. They also have the mixed doubles, right?
Right.
And I don't know if you want to do that or not, but it's been bandied about. That's all I'll say. I like it the way it is. There are people that say you do a Ryder Cup, President's Cup type thing, make it a team event. I don't know. I'm not sure anybody's going to beat the U.S. if you do that. So
yeah,
it's going to be hard to beat the U.S. doing this.
That's right. So just recapping the works here. Canada 88-85 over Spain men's basketball. Quarterfinals are on Tuesday, and it looks like France or South Sudan, and I don't want to get too more involved in it than that. There are possibilities, but it's a long show to do that. Canada's Sofiane Mathad wins the Olympic bronze in trampoline. We've got a couple things from tennis, and Mike McIntyre from Match Point Canada will be by at the bottom of the hour to go over this. Drabowski and Auger-Aliassime won the bronze in the mixed doubles in tennis, and Felix Auger-Aliassime can win the bronze in men's singles if he wins his next match. Damian Warner stands fourth after 4 events at the Olympic decathlon, unless Doogie will update that for me. That's through 4 events, and the shot put was the one where there was a bit of a miss for him. Kylie Mass wins the Olympic bronze medal in women's 200-meter backstroke, and we're up to date. Plenty of stuff there.
Great time to be alive.
It is.
Great time to be alive. Yeah, Felix, bronze medal match against Lorenzo Musetti.
Yeah, who lost to Djokovic.
Yeah. So it's doable.
So Djokovic and Alcaraz in the gold medal.
Yes. Isn't that something?
Yeah. Well, here we go again.
Should be fun. Yeah. The young versus the young upstart versus one of the all-time greats, if not the all-time greatest.
Well, those guys are becoming a regular thing in the final of anything that's major lately.
Yeah. Should be a good one.
Bob Weeks in a couple of minutes. And as I said, Mike McIntyre will help us out with the tennis. There's football tonight. We have the Alouettes in Hamilton. Watch that on TSN. And last night, the Bombers wiped out the BC Lions, who lost Vernon Adams Jr. with a knee injury, 25-0.
Whoa. That's concerning.
It is.
Very concerning.
And with the Nathan Rourke story.
Ooh.
I feel so bad. I mean, obviously he's well paid. But there's just that, you're number 4 here, you're number 4 there. I mean, the guy's got talent. He should be able to play.
Needs a shot.
But yeah, it needs just 2 things negatively to happen to other people before he gets a look.
That's pro sports, man.
It is.
It's a cutthroat business. One guy's injury is another guy's opportunity, and he hasn't been given the opportunity to date, but he wants to keep chasing it. And you understand why they're paying mediocre quarterbacks $30 million, $40 million bucks.
Oh. That's the job.
That's the job.
Yeah, well, that's the keys to the franchise.
You gotta try. If you're Nathan Rourke, you're that good. You gotta try.
Oh, I don't take it away from him from doing that. I just it's the lack of opportunity to actually show what he's capable of that's frustrating to watch.
I agree.
Let's deal with the golf now. Olympic golf. Xander Schauffele is tied with Matsuyama and Tommy Fleetwood at 11 under. And where did I see? Scottie Scheffler's at 6 under. So there's also at 9 under John Rahm. Canadians, Nick Taylor +1, T46, T16, is it, for
T13 for Connors.
Connors? Okay,
5 under.
I couldn't read my own scribbling. 5 under. Let's bring in Bob Weeks now from Golf Talk Canada and a golf journalist at TSN headquarters. Bob, how are you today, sir?
Doing very well, guys. Very well. Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday to you. And what do you make of Olympic golf? Does it work for you?
I think this year it finally is. I would say the first 2 iterations after its 112-year layoff was when they came back in Brazil and in Tokyo. I don't think the players really bought into it. I mean, Rory has admitted that, he used the Zika virus as a way just to say no, polite way to say no. Jason Day told me the same thing. He just said, look, I'm not going to go. I don't think they really bought into it, but I think now it's becoming genuine. And I think there's a few reasons for it, but I think part of it is that they're sort of seeing that, golf can play a part inside the Olympic family. And you've seen it with all these players who are going to see other events, and they've come in early. And I mean, Nick Taylor was hanging out with Felix Auger-Aliassime on the boat in the opening ceremonies, and they were chatting with each other, and they went to the diving, and they're doing all sorts of different things. So I think they're sort of embracing the Olympic spirit, if that's a good way to put it. And I don't know, if you gave someone an option between a green jacket and a gold medal, what they would choose. But Hideki said, he'd be better known in Japan if he won a gold medal than for his Masters win. So there is some international impact here too. But I'm enjoying it. It's not a ton different than regular week of golf, but it's Olympics, and it's kind of neat to see the golf guys going at it.
I was going to say, for the gold medal, depends where you're from. In North America, obviously the green jacket is king, but in the rest of the world, maybe not.
Yeah, and that's I think a big part of how international golf is getting, especially at the women's game. It's become such an international sport, and you're seeing players from all over the world playing in this thing. So I think that's an added element to it as well. And I think that these guys, the Canadian guys, and a lot of other guys that I've talked to, but especially the Canadian guys, have really said, I want to be an Olympian. I want to play in the Olympics. This was a big thing on Nick Taylor's plate for quite a while. In fact, he said it affected his game because he could see himself sort of sliding, and there was Corey Connors and Adam Hadwin moving up, and he was afraid he wasn't going to make it. And this was really, really high on his list of achievements that he wanted to reach this year. So you can see how important it is for some of these players.
Okay, so this tournament began like a lot of other tournaments, Bob, with Scottie Scheffler as the presumptive favorite. But yet again, we got another guy with a sh at the beginning of his name. It's Xander Schauffele, who is at the top of the leaderboard, might be the hottest player on the planet coming off his win at the Open Championship. If right now you had to vote, PGA Tour Player of the Year, and I don't know if you're counting the Olympics in that, but let's just say you did count the Olympics in that. Who are you siding with here? Is it Schauffele with the 2 majors, or Scottie Scheffler, who's won more money than anybody in a bunch of tournaments?
Yeah, I mean, Scheffler's won 6 times. He's won the Masters. He's won the Players, which is almost a major, and he's won 4 other signature events. So he's essentially beaten the best field in golf 6 times.
Yeah.
And Schauffele has had a great year too. He's got the 2 major wins. If he wins this gold medal, I think that'll add some importance to it. And he hasn't finished outside the top 20 since the Arnold Palmer in February. Every other event, he's been at least in the top 20. So it's a hard choice. I would probably have to give it to Scheffler just based on the amount of wins and the amount of money. But I don't know, 2 majors is pretty big. And if you add a gold medal on top of that, that might just do it. Of course, he's defending his gold medal. He won it last time. So I think Schauffele right now, if I was voting, I would probably give it to Schauffele if he wins the gold medal.
Well, I'm curious about the track and the preparation by the golfers to get to know this track. What can you tell us?
I can tell you that Corey Connors practiced by playing the game. He has this course on his simulator in his basement at home. So he was inside hitting it, avoiding all this heat and stuff. But this was the site of the 2018 Ryder Cup, which the European team won, and it's set up quite differently than of course that was. But it's tough. There's a lot of kind of slopes that go against the curve of the hole. So the slope faces left to right, but the hole curves right to left. So there's a bit of that. There's a lot of, I would say, you don't hit your driver all that much on every hole. You probably bring it out less than you would say on a PGA Tour event. First tee, you see guys hitting irons off the tee just to keep it out of the water, and there's water on the last 4 holes. So it's a tricky course, and I think it's one of those places where, disaster is just kind of one bad swing away, and by disaster I mean like probably a double or something. Xander Schauffele today had a disaster with an anthill. He got stuck behind an anthill, and he wasn't sure if he was allowed to move it or not. And the verdict was that he wasn't allowed, but he could move the ants. So there's a great ruling for you. How'd you like to be the ref has to do that? You're allowed to move the ants, but not the anthill. But I think it's a good test. The guys are, 11 under is a pretty good score, and I think there hasn't been a lot of wind. There's supposed to be a little bit more wind for the weekend, so we'll see if that tightens things up a little bit more. I can tell you that the women are very anxious to get a look. Like Brooke Henderson said, I'm very anxious to get a look at Corey Connor's yardage book because I want to see where to play this and how to play this golf course. So there's a lot of guys who are fairly new to it, who haven't played it and didn't play in the Ryder Cup, and they've been trying to figure out ways to do it. But so far, I can think a bunch of these guys are having no problem with it.
I'm also curious, and I don't know if you have the answer to this. I mean, how do they set it up, and who do they consult? Because it is the Olympics, right?
Yeah, and as we all know, the Olympics don't like to be told what to do, but they have an International Golf Federation, which is basically made up of the governing bodies, so the R&A and the USJ and the PGA Tour, Augusta National, and they've got their people who are setting it up, help to set it up, and it's not going to be there's not going to be people who haven't set up golf courses doing it. It's probably experienced people, probably from the PGA Tour or the DP World Tour, European Tour, setting it up. And it's very different than what it was set up for the Ryder Cup. That's one thing I've heard a lot of the players say, that, when the Ryder Cup, or in this case, next couple months, the President's Cup, they set it up to favor their team. That they don't do that in the Olympics. So I think it's a pretty good test of golf so far from what I've seen.
So not a surprise that Schauffele's at the top. Hideki Matsuyama tied at -11, and it's a 3-way tie. The other guy being Tommy Fleetwood, who made a big jump up the leaderboard today, Bob, with a 64. When you look at how you talked about how some of these guys haven't seen this course very much, Tommy Fleetwood's a guy who's won there at the French Open on the European Tour, and also was on that European Ryder Cup team that had such success there and went 4-1. We know Tommy can't close on the PGA Tour, never has, but how do you like his chances to close on an Olympic course?
Well, as long as he doesn't have to go in a playoff with Nick Taylor and have a 72-foot putt.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I do like Tommy Fleetwood's chances. I think he's actually, he started off the year not playing great, but he's been playing some really good golf lately. And I do think that there is some satisfaction, and guys will tell you, they get a little bit excited when they're coming back to a course where they've won before. So that ticks that box here. And when you add in the Ryder Cup experience as well. So there's a lot of good things to like about him. I just think that right now Schauffele is the guy that I would look at those top 3 and say he's still the favorite. But any one of those 3, or, you go down one and Jon Rahm's right there, and we haven't really seen how he's been playing, except if you've been watching on Live, which I know not as many people watch on that. But John won an event there just recently, so he's probably coming into form too. But with 36 holes left, there's still a bunch of movement here that I think can happen, judging by the rounds we saw today. Thomas Dietrich shot 63. As you mentioned, Fleetwood shot 64. So there's low rounds out there that can change the leaderboard in a hurry.
Yeah, I think there were 3 64s along with that 63. So is there anybody sort of lurking maybe under the top 10 that could take a run at this? Obviously, Scheffler's tied for 10th. You never count him out.
Yeah, Scheffler. Joaquin Niemann's had a good year on Live. There's a guy who can put it low. Tom Kim is not that far off. He's at 8 under. And if he can get his putter kind of going a little bit, I think not only would he be happy, but Mike Weir would be very happy because he's going to be counted on to do a lot of things at the President's Cup. So I think those names there kind of ring out. I'd love to see Corey just get himself into a position for maybe a 3rd place. He's actually been putting. That's kind of his weakest part of his game, but he's been putting pretty well the last, say, month or so. And if he can get that going, then that would be really nice to see him move up a little bit. And I'm feeling sorry right now for Nick Taylor, whose struggles continue. He hasn't played well since he won in Phoenix, and I think he's in real danger of not being picked for that President's Cup team right now.
What do you make of it, Bob?
I don't know. There's not, you can't look at his stats and say this one part here, it's his putting, it's his driving. I'm just not sure what it is. I've got a conversation with him coming up in a couple of weeks, so maybe we'll figure it out. But he's got a 2-year exemption and for winning in Phoenix this year, so he's not in any real danger, and he's going to make it into the FedEx Cup playoffs. So maybe that's where he can turn it around. But it's just so weird that he's just, after winning in Canadian Open, winning in Phoenix, and all of a sudden his game has just kind of deserted him at this point.
So, Bob, I got to go back to that thing about the ants. I found that ruling fascinating because there is a rule in golf that says you can get relief from dangerous insects, right? Like if they happen to be fire ants, you can get but who's the guy that tells you whether these are the fire ants or not? Is what I want to know. Like do you have to show the welts on your body from being attacked by these things to get relief from them, or how's that work?
I think the International Golf Federation has an entomologist that they bring out, staff entomologist. They would bring them out just to check. I guess the easiest way would be to stick your hand in the hole, and if they bite you, you get relief.
Right.
You won't be able to move your hand, but you get relief.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Ant guy.
I don't know. That is a strange one for sure. But I find it funny. Like, what if Schauffele would have, in the course of moving the ants, they suddenly start attacking him,
or carried the ball with them?
Yeah.
Have you ever put I put my hand on a fire ant hill one time, and I tell you, in a second, they were halfway up to my elbow.
Really?
It's the scariest thing you've ever been through in your life.
Okay, so maybe they're easier to identify than I thought. I wasn't aware of the danger.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it'd be interesting to sit down with Nick Taylor and just find out after winning the RBC Canadian Open what his I don't want to say social schedule, but commitment schedule was like. Because if you go back in tennis with Bianca winning the U.S. Open, that really affected her because she had a lot of things to do to satisfy clients and sponsors and things like that. I mean, it becomes a big business when you win something like that. I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, I mean, there were some weird things he was doing. I wouldn't have turned them down because I'm sure the price was right, but he was like signing autographs at the opening of a condo building at Yonge and York Mills in Toronto here. I don't know what was. I couldn't quite figure out the connection, but I'll tell you, they announced it, and there was a lineup out They had a big tent, and there was a lineup out the street and around the corner. Now, I'm not sure, if that was just like a one-off, like he just flew in from Vancouver, apparently did that, and then flew home. So. I'm sure the price was right, but that's the kind of thing you're talking about.
Yeah,
I'm sure, and it does. He's in a different bracket now after winning not only the Canadian Open but also in Phoenix when he did put on such a great performance. But it could very well be something like that.
Well, and Rory talked about refocusing on golf because he was in sort of politically involved in golf, and that got to be distracting too, right?
Yeah, he said he was spending a lot of time on Zoom calls and things like that, and he kind of got off it. Now he's back in it because I don't think he can help himself. But I think there is a danger for a lot of these guys it's hard to say no, especially when the money keeps adding up. So I know some of these golfers, especially the ones like a Brooke Henderson when she comes to Canada, for instance, or Mike Weir when he was in his hot seat and he was coming back to Canada. They had for the Canadian Open, they had to learn how to say no. Look, I can't do everything. And at some point, you have to say what's most important. And I think a guy like Scottie Scheffler is probably going through something like that as well, although he seems to have handled it pretty well. I see him with lots of opportunities and see him in different places. But it's betwixt and between because you want the money, but you can't do it at the expense of your game.
The conversation at the Olympics, Bob, it eventually turns to, should they trick up the format somehow? Like, should it just be more than just another 72-hole tournament from the same guys you see on the PGA Tour? Have you thought about that at all recently? I know we had this conversation when they first brought it back, but have you heard anybody talking about what they might do to make it somewhat different from just another 72-hole tournament?
Yeah, I was trading texts with a person a couple days ago who said that they're working on what they're trying to work on is basically having a male-female team event. So essentially the men would play at the start of the Olympics. There would be a hole of about 5 days, and then the women would play. And in that hole of 5 days, they would have a 3-round alternate shot or better ball format, a different kind of format with a man and a woman. They would be the same thing. So in this case, it would be for Canada, probably Corey Connors and Brooke Henderson would play.
Okay.
So they would each play 2 different competitions. And I think that's good. At least it's a change. I mean, they do that at the this new event that they started last year in November. where Corey and Brooke played together and finished second, and it was a huge hit. It got great numbers on television. It drew well. So I think that's the kind of format they're trying to sing. And this person said that if everything goes right, maybe sometime around the Masters, they'll announce it for 2028. And the big danger is, golf is only assured of a spot in the Olympics through the next one, which is going to be in Los Angeles. They're going to play at Riviera. After that, they can get booted out if it's not all that successful. Although I see this year the crowds are really good at the golf events, so that may help their cause as well.
Okay, so just to recap there, so there's still going to be a men's tournament and a women's tournament, but they'll be shorter, and then they're going to have the mixed event. Is that right?
They'll still have 4 rounds of men, 4 rounds of women, but in the middle they'll have a 2 or a 3 round mix.
Oh, I see. So it's still going to be 72 holes for each of the men and women, but then the mixed thing in the middle. Okay. Yeah. What do you think? You like that?
I do. I mean, I think I like that better than the 4 rounds of the men's play. I'd rather have almost a separate women's men's event, but I think as long as you don't make it too goofy, like you don't want to have a scramble format or something like that. But I think better ball would be pretty good, just between the two of them. And I think that's what it's something that you don't get to see very often, and that to me is part of the big attraction of why it would be good on the Olympics. And for playing for a medal would be pretty interesting to see how much tension those two players would get into.
I think it's a fascinating idea. I like it. Bob, thanks very much. Enjoy your weekend.
You too. Have a great one, everyone.
That's Bob Weeks, TSN golf analyst, Golf Talk Canada as well. So you talked about this earlier. I mean, mixed doubles like tennis. I mean, that works.
Tennis and curling.
Yeah.
Both do it. I mean, tennis does it all the time at the majors and everything. But
yeah.
I mean, I think it's been pretty successful with curling, with that doubles curling. And to Bob's point, you got to do something to differentiate yourself. And this is a social media world too, right? Like you got to engage people with something they don't see every day. And the idea of Connors and Brooke Henderson, it's got some appeal, right? Like when you can sort of you can have some fun with that. And I think because this is I love golf. I think I'm in a demographic that loves the game. I'm going to watch the tournament, but to go to the Olympics and see something you're not going to see.
Right. It has to be slightly different.
Once every 4 years, I think that could really be something that puts golf in a different kind of stratosphere.
Totally agree with you. Going to step out and we'll talk tennis. Mike McIntyre will stop by from Matchpoint Canada. That's the official podcast of Tennis Canada. So 1 bronze in mixed doubles and another possible in men's singles. Felix Auger-Aliassime breaking Canadian singles records at this point with how deep he's gone.
Incredible stuff.
It is.
Gotta love it.
Yeah, not too great this morning, but again, he played 2 matches yesterday and 2 again today. So I take nothing away from him, that's for sure. We'll do that next. This is OverDrive on TSN2, TSN 1050, the iHeartRadio app, and streaming online. Well, if you insist, Guy, OverDrive, Jim Tatti and Dave Feschuk from the Toronto Star. Breaking. Are you ready for this? Breaking.
Can't wait.
Music. Aerosmith. Aerosmith cancels its farewell tour due to complications with Steven Tyler's voice, officially closing an era, which means no more touring.
What
a way to go out.
That's difficult to hear.
Yeah, it is.
That's difficult to hear. Because without Steven Tyler's voice, what would be the point?
Karaoke.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what would be the point.
But I mean, the guy is 76 years old. Let's cut him some slack.
Hey, look, there's a lot of rockers, in their 80s. I don't know how, because the original premise for rock and roll was, if you're over 30, see ya.
Hope I die before I get old.
Yeah, that's right. Over 40, see ya, and then it got stretched to 40, and then it became endless.
So Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, Mick's now 81. Oh. They're cackling somewhere saying, another one bites the dust.
We can still do this.
We can outdo them all. We're outliving them all.
Last man standing.
Still sing.
The last man standing tour.
Hey, man, that Mick, you see some of the clips of Mick Jagger at 81. He's prancing around the stage, running around like a young man.
It's miraculous, really. The guy who used to, and this is an old performer who went into his 90s, was George Burns. You'd watch him on the stage, and you go, the reason I point that out is, if you're in your 90s and you still, no shaking on the hands, and you're in front of all those people, that's remarkable.
Impressive.
Unbelievable.
Yes. And he kept it coming.
Yeah, and so the modern version of this is these guys are running around singing and dancing and belting out like rock and roll, with hitting the notes, or maybe they've altered the notes, but still it sounds good.
Well, there's technology for the notes. I mean, who knows what they're doing with the notes? But yeah, it's like the fact that they're there, like they're human beings that are still breathing after all that rock and roll lifestyle stuff.
And it's the summer, so there's all kinds of acts. I had Warren Sakyu on my show today, and last night he saw Green Day and the Smashing Pumpkins, and tonight Def Leppard and Journey are in Toronto tonight. So it's an active summer.
Yeah, but it's Journey without Steve Perry, right? Is that really Journey?
No.
I don't know.
It's the band.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. Look, if you love Journey, don't tell me to buzz off. I'm happy to buzz off, but I can't get up for Journey without Steve Perry.
I'm amazed. I'm going to see an 84-year-old Ringo Starr in September.
Are you?
Yeah, I saw him when he first started the tour. I know it's a good show, and I'm amazed. I mean, this guy, 84,
inspirational.
It is.
Keeps you going. It's like, hey, like what are you complaining about? 84-year-old Ringo Starr to 81-year-old Mick Jagger is still getting up for the grind.
Yeah. And because they want to, they don't have to.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
They got all the money in the world. Still
and then
they're
some.
doing what they do.
And then some.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk tennis. So one medal today. Drabowski and Auger-Aliassime captured the bronze in the mixed doubles, and Felix Auger-Aliassime can get back into another bronze medal. He's in the bronze medal game against Musetti, who lost to Djokovic. So let's go through this semifinal today. Djokovic 6-4, 6-2 over Musetti, and it was Alcaraz 6-1, 6-1 over Felix Auger-Aliassime. To help us make some sense, let's bring in Mike McIntyre. He is the co-host of Match Point Canada, the official podcast of Tennis Canada. Mike, welcome. How are you today, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great, guys, and I know if I'm talking to you, it means something big is happening in the tennis world, and usually something big for Canada, and that's exactly the case, grabbing a bronze medal today in the mixed doubles.
Yeah, and that was, I just want to, first of all, I don't want to take away from that, but Felix Auger-Aliassime played singles and mixed doubles yesterday, did the same today, and at 6 a.m. our time tomorrow morning, we'll go on against Musetti. I mean, that's 5 matches in less than 48 hours.
Yeah, well, thank God he's 23 and he's not our age, right? So, and I'm telling you, I mean, this guy is one of the most physically fit players on the tour as well. So, although it is definitely double duty for him and extra taxing, not just physically, but mentally too, to bounce back from that loss he suffered against Alcaraz today, he is a professional athlete and he can certainly handle that. And it's not best of 5 sets too, thankfully, because that would have made it a little bit more challenging for him. But I was really impressed how he bounced back from that loss against Alcaraz, which was certainly a humbling experience. You're competing, you want to move on to the gold medal match. Obviously, that's where everyone wants to be, and that you can't bring your best, in part, I think also because his opponent, Alcaraz, is just so gosh darn good on a tennis court. I mean, this guy is just getting better with every tournament he enters. He's like one of those evil AI computers in sci-fi movies that is just always one step ahead of the humans, and nobody can counter him right now. He's just been on fire the last 2 months, winning the French Open, winning Wimbledon, and now he'll go for the gold medal against Djokovic tomorrow. But for Felix to bounce back, get it together, and be able to win in doubles with Gabby and give Canada our first Olympic medal in tennis since Danny Nestor and Sébastien Leroux at the Sydney Games in 2000, it's a pretty special day for the country and a great way for him to shake off that loss and still end up with something at the end of the day.
Okay, so let's go on the premise, Mike. I like your premise. He's a young man. He's going to have all the recovery options that the pro athletes have at their disposal. He'll be fine for tomorrow's bronze medal match. How do you like the matchup with Lorenzo Musetti?
It's a coin toss to me, to be honest with you. I put it 50-50. They're both about the same age. Musetti's a year younger. He's 22. Another one of those young rising players in the tour as we transition away from the big 3 era of Federer, Nadal, and eventually Djokovic is going to hang it up, or maybe he'll be like Mick Jagger and play till he's 80. I don't know. But Musetti's one to watch. He's ranked 16th. Felix is ranked 19th. Felix leads their head-to-head 3-2, although both of his losses were on clay, which Musetti is a little bit more comfortable on, being from Europe where they grew up playing on that stuff. But at this point, both these players are playing fantastic, and they both got humbled by stronger opponents today. So they're going to be coming in hungry. And, the bronze medal match is always a tough one because, someone's going to walk away without any medal. And, hopefully that's the Italian and not Felix tomorrow.
So, Mike, I mean, you know these guys and how they play. So, how, in terms of like, how compatible are their styles?
Yeah, well, Felix is, man, when he's got his forehand going and his serve, like we've seen this week, look at how lethal he can be. Doesn't matter the surface. I mean, Clay is supposed to take a little bit of that speed away, but he's been finding a way to kind of use his power game. And the doubles is coming in handy, too, because he's been so well closing out points at the net. Musetti is more of a mover and more adept to the clay court kind of game, which in North America we're not as familiar with. I mean, I play on red clay here at my club in Mimico, but generally speaking, we play on hard courts in Canada and the States. But really at this point, I think it's less about the technical stuff, and it's more about who's going to be able to show up at the moment. And I think Felix, the fact that he's already got a medal under his belt, I think that'll make him a little bit more comfortable because he knows he's not going home empty-handed either way. And he's certainly made leaps and bounds since his first Olympic experience in Tokyo 4 years ago as a 19-year-old, where he lost in the first round of singles and mixed doubles. So it's really great to see him having such a successful second appearance at the Olympic Games.
So, Mike, tennis fans will be riveted to the TV tomorrow morning with Felix going for bronze. And it won't be a very big turnaround before he's back in North America, back in Canada, headlining the National Bank Open. Same with Leylah Fernandez and Bianca Andreescu. What do you make of this short turnaround between this Olympic competition and the national championship here in Canada? And what do you think it might mean for the tournament?
Well, that's always the challenge for tournament organizers in Montreal and Toronto is every 4 years we do fall right after the Olympics. So generally speaking, anyone who goes deep at the Olympic Games, it's going to be tough for them, especially if it's a time zone change like you're getting from Paris to Toronto and Montreal, and a surface change too, going from clay courts to hard courts. A lot of pros want like a week of practice on the surface before they test themselves in a game scenario, but also they're big points and big prize money at these tournaments. So I think these players are going to be motivated for many reasons. They want to stay sharp for the U.S. Open too, which is coming up later this summer. The Canadians will all be here. We know that. This is their home tournament. They got the fans behind them. It's very rare for them to get opportunities throughout the season really to play on home soil. Maybe the occasional Davis Cup or Billie Jean King Cup match, but otherwise, this is their big time. They want to be there for this. And, hopefully Felix is coming in hot with the confidence from the Olympic Games. As you mentioned, Bianca's going to be here in Toronto. She won the tournament. I can't believe it's already been 5 years since she won here in Toronto. But when she's healthy, she's one of the best in the world. Leylah Fernandez is terrific as well. And then you got Shapovalov, Milos Raonic in Montreal. So all those Canadians are going to be, even if their rankings perhaps aren't as high as they might want right now, I think they're going to be names that nobody's going to want to see next to theirs in the draw once the tournament starts up.
I got to believe Felix in Montreal, that's going to be a big hit, isn't it?
Oh, they love him there, right? I mean, he's a Montrealer. He's French-Canadian. They love their tennis in Montreal. The fans here in Toronto, obviously, as well. But he'll get a heck of a reception from the crowd, especially with one, maybe hopefully two medals coming back with him. So I'm sure they'll do some sort of little celebration for him to acknowledge what he's done, just as they probably will be doing here in Toronto for Gabby Dabrowski, who was his partner in the mixed doubles today and Canada's most accomplished doubles player of all time behind Daniel Nestor.
Hey, Mike, when you look at Felix in the season he's had, there's been a lot of disappointment. He had a bit of a good run at Madrid, but there hasn't been a lot of high points until now. And I'm wondering, do you think maybe this run at the Olympics, as exhausting as we know it's been, once he recovers from it and regains his legs, could maybe propel him forward here to something better on the tour?
Yeah, it's a great question, Dave. And certainly Felix is looking for that consistency. I mean, as tennis fans in this country, we want to see the Canadians week in, week out going deep in these tournaments. And that just hasn't been the case. I mean, they've teased us over the years with great results for sure. They've done terrific things in team competitions on the international stage for sure. But we're not seeing the consistency that maybe we're getting a little bit greedy now in Canada, that we truly believe we're a tennis nation and that we can be doing it on a more regular basis. And I agree with what you said, that the confidence from the Olympics, reminding him, hey, I can hang with these guys. I can beat these top 10 players. I mean, Felix was a top 10 guy only a year ago, and he's 23 years old. His best years are still ahead of him in theory. So I think absolutely this could be the boost he needs. Tennis is such a mental game. He's got all the tools, the skill set, the talent. I mean, people have been gushing over this kid since he was 13. We knew he was going to be a big deal. I'd like to see it on a more regular basis, and hopefully this is a step in the right direction for him.
Got to be a huge boost to get into a singles area that nobody's in Canada's ever been in. I mean, that
right.
alone is worth it, right?
And look at how many firsts we've done in Canadian tennis over the last 10 years between Jeannie Bouchard and Milos Raonic getting to the Wimbledon finals and cracking the top 5 in the sport in both the women's and men's game, and then sort of passing that torch off to Bianca and Layla, Dennis and Felix, who've had some great results at some of the majors as well in previous years. So here's another first for Canada, going for our first singles medal ever at the Olympic Games in tennis. It's really a fun time to be a tennis fan in this country. It's fun for the kids who are growing up and getting to see, people wearing the maple leaf and having success in the sport of tennis. My kids want to pick up a tennis racket and be like those players. And I didn't have that when I was growing up. In the 80s and 90s, we were looking at other countries who were excelling in tennis, and now it's our time, and it's been fantastic to see.
Let's give some due to Gabby Dabrowski. We haven't talked about her much. You talked about her accomplishments in the doubles discipline of tennis, and it doesn't get nearly as much shine as the singles does. But, given all Mike, you're much more on the ground than we are when it comes to the intricacies of the doubles game. What has made her so good, and where does this rank, this bronze medal that she's won with Felix in the mixed doubles, where does this rank in her career accomplishments?
Yeah, Gabby's been really the most consistent tennis player for us, but you're right, it doesn't get the headlines because it's doubles. And look, anyone going out to the tournament here in Toronto, go and check out these doubles matches because it's incredible, the hand-eye coordination, how quick the points are happening at the net. It's super exciting. Unfortunately, we don't see it on TV as much, but I'd love to see more of it because it's a fantastic aspect of the sport that I think deserves to be showcased on a higher level. She's won Grand Slams before. In fact, she partnered with a player from New Zealand last summer, Aaron Routliffe, who actually has dual citizenship. Also, her parents are from Canada. And the two of them, ever since they got together last summer, have been terrific. They're the top doubles tandem in the world. Aaron's ranked number 1 right now. Gabby, I believe, is number 3. And every tournament they enter in, they're a threat to win it. And it'd be great to see that happen here in Toronto for her. She's from Ottawa, but I guess this is the closest to a home tournament for her. And, you can consistently expect her to go deep at the majors as well. I wish she got some more headlines. She's very unassuming, but this moment in Paris certainly means a lot for her to add an Olympic medal to her already impressive trophy haul.
So, Mike, tomorrow at 6 a.m., Massetti against Felix Auger-Aliassime, and at 8:30 scheduled Djokovic against Alcaraz. I mean, Djokovic and Alcaraz are turning into some sort of a tennis tour, aren't they?
It's pretty impressive that we get to see them go head-to-head because sometimes, you get an aging player and they're not at their best when the next wave is coming up. And I think back to watching Roger Federer play Andre Agassi before the American hung up his racket, and they had a couple of close ones, but Agassi was really getting older by the time he was 36 with his sciatic issues. And, Federer, we recall in 2001, he beat Sampras at Wimbledon. And we have these moments that feel like it's a real changing of the guard and the torch is being passed. And here we see it might be happening with Carlos Alcaraz, who is just already at the age of 21, something really, really special. But Djokovic isn't ready to just hand it over. I mean, he's 37 years old. But last year he won 3 majors last year, made the finals of all 4. This year a little bit less reliable due to some injury concerns. You'll see he's wearing a brace on his right knee, which was bothering him in one of his previous matches. But he wants this. It's one of the only things that's missing from his impressive tennis resume. He doesn't have a gold medal at the Olympics. His best was a bronze showing years ago in Beijing. This will be his last Olympics. I mean, I'd be shocked if he was around 4 years from now, to be honest. So he knows what's on the line when he goes for this gold medal against Alcaraz tomorrow.
Who do you like, Mike? Tough call, I know, but who do you like between the two greats there, Alcaraz and Djokovic?
Well, if you saw him play at Wimbledon recently, and there was a lot on the line for Djokovic, who was chasing his 25th major, and he would have tied Federer with 8 Wimbledon titles, and that slipped through his fingers, and he got beat pretty handily by the young Spaniard. So I got to say, Alcaraz is fresher. He's been better this year. I think he solved the Djokovic puzzle, and I'd be pretty surprised if we didn't see the youngster with that gold medal around his neck tomorrow.
Mike, thanks very much. Really appreciate it.
Hey, Jim and Dave, thanks so much. Hope to see you at the tennis next week.
Absolutely. Mike McIntyre. The podcast is at Match Point Canada, and it's the official podcast of Tennis Canada, and Mike's all over that scene. I was just sort of reminding myself I got up early and watched Felix lose. He won the first game and then got smoked 6-1, 6-1.
Yeah, Alcaraz is a machine.
Oh,
right?
well, once he gets into a groove, that's it.
It's not even fair. And that's kind of the interesting thing to me is that we're coming out of the Big Three era, and Djokovic has got something to say about that because he's the last of the Big Three still standing at the elite level, as much as Rafa Nadal's trying to get out there. But we're not seeing a new Big Three. We're seeing a new Big One.
Yeah, a one.
He doesn't have any peers his age just yet. Nobody from that generation has touched this guy. And you wonder, what that could mean, because who's going to stop him?
He's going to go on a run for sure. By the way, Mail It In Fridays is brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. BP, oh, the phone moved. Now I'm in trouble. BP. It went for a run. That's not good when you're ad-libbing. There it is. BP serving fish bowls and ice cold pints on the patio all summer long. So grab your sunscreen. Let's have ourselves a weekend. The Boston Pizza patio is calling.
Nice. Pulled it out of the fire.
That was a little nervy, guy, because it went on a run and I was back to last week.
That was Hayes doing the Jiffy app. That was beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
Beautiful stuff.
Well, just leave it there. Come back and wrap it up with the best bets and all of that stuff. And I should also tell you, where's the other liner? OverDrive is brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. And OverDrive continues for mere minutes until we get to the top of the hour on TSN2, TSN 1050, the iHeartRadio app, and streaming online. Oh, yes, Guy. Final segment for a day and a week. Today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Doogie is here with his picks.
Here we go, boys. Blue Jays, Yankees in the Bronx. A nice 3-game set on a long weekend. Very great. We're going to roll with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., 2+ bases. Pair that with Aaron Judge, 2+ bases. These two in these type of matchups go head-to-head all the time. It's always a spectacle. And Vladdy loves to play in New York. He's proved it many, many, many times since his rookie season up till now. I'm ready to go over 9 total runs in this matchup. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. A lot of offensive sparks. Majority on the Yankees side. I think if they could get to Gausman early, this game could go over.
He has trouble there, doesn't he?
He does usually. Marcus Stroman has not been the absolute greatest this year. The Jays could pounce on that too. That totals plus 353 on the FanDuel Sportsbook app.
Marcus Stroman, Mr. Toronto.
Tidy parlay, Doogie.
We need a bounce back.
There you go.
We need a bounce back this week.
Okay, Guy. Can I do this now?
You could do it now, and then I have some news here.
Oh, okay. Today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. The first inning means as much as the 9th when you bet baseball on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. 19+ and physically located in Ontario.
Yes, Guy. 19+.
Yeah.
Some news coming out before the game. John Schneider speaking to the reporters down there in New York saying, we're not totally rebuilding.
Oh.
We are not totally out of it yet. Saying that we want to compete in 2025. That was the message down in New York today.
Who said they were rebuilding?
I think the scope of this team is that you get rid of those pieces, and that means you're essentially rebuilding for the season.
I would suggest to you that all they moved out, except for Nate Pearson, was expiring contracts. If they were rebuilding, one of the two big guys would have been gone.
Yeah,
That's
one
true.
of the two big guys were
that would have proved it.
Or you throw, Bassett would have been gone. Or
a guy with some term and some track ahead of him.
Yeah, you could
a baseball trade.
guys with higher value.
Yeah.
Where you could get like a Juan Soto type deal, a Juan Soto type return. You're right.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, and they're pointing towards 2025, and I always say, think about 2026. Because the shopping order is so extensive in the offseason.
It's going to be hard.
That division. Two things have to happen. First of all, you have to make the right moves. But second of all, the market has to be there for that to happen. Now, I mean, what are the odds of both those things happening in a span of 3 or 4 weeks?
Well, what are the odds that the market's there? What are the odds you don't have to overpay for the stuff you need, which makes it prohibitive and you don't do it? Well, yeah, you're right. Like this, it's not one thing they need here. They need a better run-scoring environment, right? According to Ross Atkins. Well, what does that mean? They need better players. They need better hitters.
Yeah. All over the place, pitching as well.
They need more bats. Well. They knew that a year ago.
I mean, it's not a short offseason shopping list, and not a long enough offseason to probably fill it.
Mere seconds. Doogie, it was fun to work with you 5 days
It was a
this
pleasure
week.
for both of you.
Good job, dude.
Great time.
So Hazy B will be back on
Tuesday.
Tuesday. That's right, Monday off. Tuesday at 4.
We'll chat then.